A gorgeous young redhead goes into the doctor's office and said that her body hurt wherever she touched it. "Impossible," says the doctor. "Show me." The redhead took her finger, pushed on her left shoulder and screamed. Then she pushed her elbow and screamed even more. She pushed her knee and screamed. Likewise she pushed her ankle and screamed. Everywhere she touched made her scream. The doctor said, "You're not really a redhead, are you?" "Well, no," she said. "I'm actually a blonde." "I thought so," the doctor said. "Your finger is broken." Little Paul watched his daddy's car pass by the school playground and go into the woods. Curious, Paul followed the car and saw Daddy and Aunt Jane in a passionate embrace. Little Paul found this so exciting that he could not contain himself as he ran home and started to tell his mother. "Mommy, I was at the playground and I saw Daddy's car go into the woods with Aunt Jane. I went back to look and he was giving Aunt Jane a big kiss, then he helped her take off her shirt. Then Aunt Jane helped Daddy take his pants off, then Aunt Jane." At this point Mommy cut him off and said, "Paul, this is such an interesting story, suppose you save the rest of it for supper time. I want to see the look on Daddy's face when you tell it tonight." At the dinner table, Mommy asked little Paul to tell his story. Paul started his story. "I was at the playground and I saw Daddy's car go into the woods with Aunt Jane. I went back to look and he was giving Aunt Jane a big kiss, then he helped her take off her shirt. Then Aunt Jane helped Daddy take his pants off. Then Aunt Jane and Daddy started doing the same thing that Mommy and Uncle Bill used to do when Daddy was in the army." The old couple had been married for 50 years. They were sitting at the breakfast table one morning when the wife says, "Just think, 50 years ago we were sitting at this same breakfast table together." "I know," the old man said. "We were probably sitting here naked as a jaybird, too." "Well," Granny snickered, "let's relive some old times." Whereupon, the two stripped to the buff and sat back down at the table. "You know, honey," the little old lady breathlessly replied, "my nipples are as hot for you today as they were 50 years ago." "I wouldn't be surprised," replied Gramps. "One's in your coffee and the other is in your oatmeal." A wife decides to have a little fun with her husband. With a mischievous grin, she leans in close and says in a playful voice, "Sweetheart, have you ever seen a $20 bill all crumpled up?" He shakes his head. "Nope." She slowly reaches into her shirt and pulls out a crumpled $20 from who knows where and hands it to him with a wink. Surprised but amused, he laughs. Then she leans in closer. "How about a $50 bill all crumpled up?" Now he's curious. "No, I haven't." She hikes up her skirt, reaches somewhere even more mysterious, and pulls out a wrinkled $50. He takes it, eyes wide. She grins and whispers, "Now, have you ever seen $50,000 all crumpled up?" His eyes light up like a kid at a candy store. "No, but I'd love to." She smiles sweetly and says, "Great. Go check the garage. You backed into my car." A guy goes to a female dentist to have a tooth extracted. She pulled out a large syringe to give an anesthetic shot. "No way, no needles." "I hate needles," the man said. So she started to hook up the nitrous oxide tank, and the man said, "I can't do the gas thing. Just the thought of having a mask on my face suffocates me." The dentist then asked the patient if he had any objections to taking a pill. "No," he says, "I'm fine with pills." The dentist gave him 2 little blue pills, and he swallowed them. "What are those?" he asked. "Cough," she replied. "I'll be damned," said the patient. "I didn't know cough worked as a painkiller." "It doesn't," said the dentist, "but it will give you something to hold on to when I pull your tooth." A doctor wanted time off to go hunting, so he asked his assistant to stand in for him. "Seamus, I am going hunting tomorrow. I don't want to close the clinic. I want you to take care of the clinic. And take care of my patients." "Yes, sir," answers Seamus. The doctor goes hunting and returns the following day and asks, "So, Seamus, how was your day?" Seamus told him that he took care of 3 patients. "The first one had a headache, so I gave him Tylenol." "Bravo, and the second one?" asks the doctor. The second one had stomach burning and I gave him Maalox, sir, says Seamus. Bravo, bravo. You're good at this, and what about the third one? Asks the doctor. Sir, I was sitting here and suddenly the door opened and a woman entered. Like a flame, she undressed herself, taking off everything including her bra, her panties, and lied down on the table. She spread her legs and shouted, "Help me! For 5 years I have not seen any man." Thundering Lord Jesus, Seamus, what did ye do? Asks the doctor. I put drops in her eyes. A Collingwood fan dies on match day and goes to heaven in his black and white top. He knocks on the old pearly gates and out walks St. Peter. "Hello, mate," says St. Peter. "I'm sorry, no Collingwood fans in heaven." "What?" exclaims the man, astonished. "You heard, no Collingwood fans." But, I've been a good man," replies the Collingwood fan. "Oh, really?" says St. Peter. "What have you done, then?" "Well," said the guy, 3 weeks before I died, I gave $10 to the starving children in Africa." "Oh," says St. Peter. "Anything else?" "Well, 2 weeks before I died, I also gave $10 to the homeless." "Anything else?" "Yeah. A week before I died, I gave $10 to the orphanage." "Okay," said St. Peter. "You wait here a minute while I have a word with the governor." 10 minutes pass before St. Peter returns. He looks the bloke in the eye and says, "I've had a word with God, and he agrees with me. Here's your $30 back, now sod off." The doctor asked him how he was feeling, and the 86-year-old said, "Things are great, and I've never felt better. I now have a 20-year-old bride who is pregnant with my child. So what do you think about that, Doc?" The doctor considered his question for a minute and then began to tell a story. "I have an older friend, much like you, who is an avid hunter and never misses a season. One day he was setting off to go hunting. In a bit of a hurry, he accidentally picked up his walking cane instead of his gun. As he neared a lake, he came across a very large male beaver sitting at the water's edge. He realized he'd left his gun at home, and so he couldn't shoot the magnificent creature. Out of habit, he raised his cane, aimed it at the animal as if it were his favorite hunting rifle, and went bang, bang. Miraculously, 2 shots rang out and the beaver fell over dead." "Now, what do you think of that?" asked the doctor. The 86-year-old said, "Logic would strongly suggest that somebody else pumped a couple of rounds into that beaver." The doctor replied, "My point exactly." A big game hunter went on a safari with his wife and mother-in-law. One morning, while still deep in the jungle, the hunter's wife awakened to find her mother gone. She woke her husband, and they both set off in search of the old woman. In a clearing not far from the camp, they came upon a chilling sight. The mother-in-law was standing face to face with a ferocious lion. "What are we going to do?" his horrified wife asked. "Nothing," her husband replied. "The lion got himself into this mess, let him get himself out of it." Morris gets back from the doctor and tells his wife, "The doctor says I only have 24 hours to live." Heartbroken but wanting to make the most of their time, he asks, "Honey, can we make love?" She nods, and they share an intimate moment. 6 hours later, Morris taps her on the shoulder. "Sweetheart, I only have 18 hours left. Can we do it again?" She agrees, and they make love once more. When they're done, Morris checks his watch. He's down to 8 hours. He nudges her and says, "Honey, just one more time before I go?" Slightly tired but understanding, she agrees. Afterwards, she rolls over and falls asleep. Meanwhile, Morris is too anxious to sleep, watching the clock tick down. 4 hours left. He gently shakes her awake. "Honey, only 4 more hours." She sits up, turns to him, and says, "Morris, I have to get up in the morning." "You don't." A blonde, looking to make some extra cash, decided to do odd jobs around her rich neighborhood. At the first house, the man says, "You can paint my porch." "How much?" $1.50, she replies. He agrees, hands her the paint and brushes, and goes back inside. His wife, overhearing, raises an eyebrow. Does she even know the porch wraps around the whole house? He shrugs. She should. She was standing on it. Not long after, the blonde knocks on the door. All done, she beams. And I had enough paint left to give it 2 coats. The man, impressed, starts pulling out the cash when she adds with a smile. Oh, and by the way, it's not a porch, it's a Lexus. Still laughing. Tag someone who'd totally do this. Bill and Marla thought they had come up with a clever plan for a little alone time one Sunday afternoon, even though their 12-year-old son was home. They sent him out to the balcony and told him to report on what was going on in the neighborhood. So, the kid starts narrating like a news anchor. A car's getting towed from the parking lot. An ambulance just went by. The Andersons have company. Matt's got a new bike. And then, the Coopers are having alone time too. Mom and Dad sit straight up. Wait, how do you know that? The kid calmly replies. Their son is standing on the balcony too. A magician worked on a cruise ship, performing the same tricks every week since the audience always changed. But there was one big problem: the captain's parrot. The bird watched every show and figured out all the magician's secrets. During performances, he'd blurt out, "Look, it's not the same hat. He's hiding the flowers under the table. Hey, why are all the cards the ace of spades?" The magician was furious, but he couldn't do anything. After all, it was the captain's parrot. Then one day, the ship sank. The magician and the parrot ended up floating on a piece of wood in the middle of the ocean. For days, they just stared at each other, full of hatred, saying nothing. Finally, after a week of silence, the parrot sighed and said, "Okay, I give up. What did you do with the boat?" A boy and a girl were lost in the jungle, starving for 5 days. The girl suddenly said, "Hey, give me your energy." The boy looked confused. "What do you mean?" She smiled and pointed at his backpack. "I saw snacks in there yesterday.